In this lesson video, we're going to take the encryption app that we already created, and we're going to also add in decryption capabilities now. So in the end, our program will be able to either encrypt a message into secret code or decrypt secret code back into its original message. So we're just going to start with what we already have, and we're going to make some edits and changes to finish up our program here. This first line up here, this is our list for the alphabet. This is going to remain the same. I'm going to just at the end of that line hit enter just to make some space for me. The spacing is not going to change your program, but I like to chunk things out and make it easy to read in my final program. Now, the way we're going to set this up, I'm going to actually let me hit return a couple of times here, make some space. We're going to make a note here. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to be creating functions for the encryption part of the program, and then we're going to make a function for the decryption part of the program. And then we're going to ask our computer to either run encryption or decryption based on what the user tells us that they want to do. So we're going to make quite a few changes here. Let's start with the encryption function because we already have all of this down here. This is where we were encrypting a message into secret code. So we're going to do some copying and pasting. But first, we're going to create a line up at the top of our program here that starts with DEF space. DEF is short for define. That's how we define a function. Remember that a function is a way that we package a set of code in our program that we may want to run numerous times, in which case it's nice to have that set of instructions packaged into a one-word command that we can call whenever we want to in the program. So this is going to be define encrypt. And then the way that we format this is this is whatever we want to name the function. We're going to name it encrypt because that's what we're going to be doing, so it makes sense. You need to have open close parentheses and then a colon. And at the end of that colon, when you hit the return or enter key on your keyboard, it's going to indent that automatically for us. And that's exactly what we want. Everything that's indented inside of the function is going to be part of that function. Right above this, let's make a note. So I'm going to put hashtag function for encrypting so that we remember that this is a function that we're writing. This is just a note to myself, what it is that I'm doing here. Okay, so now we're going to take this information that we had for the encryption program and we're going to put it inside of that function. So we're actually going to take this starting with key here and indent it in. We're going to keep new message and indent it in. We're going to keep message equals. So we're going down our list right now and we're going to indent these things. This line we're not going to use anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. All right. Now on this part, when we start indenting, we need to be careful because we already had some indents here, which means that if a line was already indented, because here it was inside of a repeat loop, we're going to have to indent it again for the function. So line 11, where it says for character, we're going to indent with the tab key. And then that still means that these things down here need to also be indented again. So tab, new position tab, new character tab. This line is an old line that we're not going to end up using anymore, so I will delete that out to clean it up. But then new message, tab, and then finally the print where it shows us what the encrypted message is, tab one time as well. Okay, so all of this that we have indented here over, that's part of our encrypt function. So now at the end of my last line, I'm going to hit return a couple times, and then I'm going to use my backspace or delete key to make sure that my cursor is flush left all the way up against the left side of the screen because we no longer are working within the encrypt function. We're going to now make a second function. In fact, let me go down again and label this again. This is going to be the function for decrypting. So note to self. Okay, so since this is going to be our decrypting, let's call it what it is, decrypt. Open close parenthesis and a colon. Okay, that's the formatting for creating a function. And then again, when I hit return or enter, it is going to automatically indent over exactly where it needs to be. All right, now looking at my notes, okay, we are going to, again, have to tell the computer what the key is when we decrypt. So we're going to say key equals. And for right now, I'm going to leave that empty. We're going to make some changes to the way the key works. So we'll come back to that. But we're still going to need a place to store the new message once it's decrypted. So I'm going to actually copy and paste a few things too. So I'm going back up to my, for me, it's line 6 where it says new message equals and then it's empty. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it inside of my decrypt. Oops. Now I have to be careful. It tabbed over too many. I just need it tabbed over one time. There we go. And then enter. Okay. And then our decryption is going to run the same way the encryption worked. It's going to analyze each letter in the secret message. It's going to go look for its alternative letter in our alphabet list. It's going to replace that letter, and then it's going to store it and show it to us. So actually, we're going to be able to copy and paste all of this section here into our decryption function. So starting with for character in message, all of this inside of that repeat loop, I'm going to copy. I'm going to put my cursor down here. And just to make sure, I'm going to have to be careful with spacing. So let me try that again. Copy. I'm actually going to move this to the right for just a second. And then I'll have to fix all of the indents. So paste. Okay, that's pretty good. We're going to have to indent everything. So we're going to make sure to indent one time so that it's inside the decrypt function. And then all of this was indented properly, so that should be okay. And then at the end, we want it to show us what the decrypted message was. So again, we're going to copy this print up here on line 17, copy, because we're going to do that when we decrypt also. Okay, and this cursor is indented too far. I just want the print message indented once. So delete back and paste. And then again, this is going to be for the decryption part of our program. So I'm going to change the print message. I don't want it to say your encoded messages. I want to say your decoded message is. Okay, and there we go. If you need to, pause here, check your program, do your copying and pasting, and get these two functions here set up, and then press play again, and we're going to make the last couple of edits to our program here. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to make this a little more interactive for the user. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to change the way the key works. Rather than setting the key at the beginning of the program, we want the user to tell us what the key is that they need to encrypt or decrypt. So we're going to go all the way back up here. For me, it's line 5, but with inside this encrypt function, the first place where we name the key, we're going to delete that 3. And instead, we're going to ask the user to tell us, what is your key? And the way that we do that in Python is we're going to use input, okay? And then you put in parentheses the message that the user will see. And the message we're going to send them is, hey, what's your key? So what is your key? And then make sure that that's closed off. Now, we actually are going to have to add one more element to this line. So because the answer to this input is going to be a number, the user is going to tell us a number. My key is 3, my key is 20, my key is 15. What we need to do is make sure that we set that variable as an integer so that the computer knows that the response is going to be a number. So we, in front of the word input, right here, okay, put my cursor right in front of input, I'm going to put int, short for integer, and then I have to put the rest of this inside a set of parentheses. So it should say key equals an integer, a number, set by the user. Input, what is your key? Okay. Now, we're going to have to do that same thing. Let me check my notes all the way down. Yep, here. So first, I'm just going to copy this line now that we've changed it. Copy, and let's just paste it down here in our decryption function. Paste. Okay. But when we're decrypting, we're going to have to add one more piece to this, right? So when we're encrypting, the computer's looking for a letter. Let's say our message is hello, and we want to encrypt it into secret code. So the computer would start by looking for the letter H in our list, and then it would use the key, before we use the key of 3, to change that H into our secret code message. So it would count 1, 2, 3 in our alphabet list, and it would determine that H is going to now be a K for the secret code. So if we're taking an already coded message and we want to find out what's the real word, instead of counting forward with our key, so H became K because we counted up by 3, 1, 2, 3. If we were taking our encoded message and we're decrypting it, now we're going to be counting backwards down the list. So if our secret message starts with a K and we're using a key of 3, now we want to tell it, well, you're going to count backwards down the line. So -1, -2, -3. That means we need to set our key to the negative version of whatever number is given to us. In which case, there's a couple ways that you could do this in Python. But what we're going to do is down here in our decryption function, we started by just asking the user what's the key. And when they input the key, it will always be a positive number. So then we'll say, okay, take that number and then now change the key to the negative absolute value of whatever they told us. Okay. All right. Now, let's leave a note here too to remind ourselves what we're doing here. So convert key into a negative number. So that's what we're doing here. Right there. Okay. All right. We have 2 functions set up. We're almost there. Now we're going to go down to the bottom of our program. So last line I typed on, I'm going to hit return or enter. And then I need to get out of this function. So backspace or delete up against the left side of the screen. What we're going to do now is we're going to have our user tell us when they start the program, are you wanting to encrypt or are you wanting to decrypt a message? So here we go. We're going to call this program. You can name it whatever you want. So we're setting up a variable here. Variable to tell computer whether to run encrypt or decrypt. Okay, so I'm just going to call it program. So program equals, and then we want the user to tell us, so input. Okay. Do you want to encrypt or decrypt a message? And then we're going to tell them what they need to input for the computer to recognize encrypt or decrypt. So we'll keep it, why don't we keep it simple? So please type either a capital E or capital D. Okay, so that's the message the user of the app is going to see. Now we have to tell the computer, we're going to use selection. If the user says E, do this, or if the user says D, do this. Okay, so we'll say if program, right? And we're saying if program because that's what we called the variable here. So they're going to check the variable. If the variable program is equal to, and in this case, you would do 2 equal signs, okay, for a mathematics equation of equal. So if program is equal to, and then we put in quotation marks E. So if the user types in E, colon, do this. And what we want them to do is run the encrypt function. So we'll have to call, we say calling the function. So in order to do that, you just type the name of the function. Encrypt, check my spelling. That matches my spelling here. Encrypt. Encrypt, open, close parentheses. Okay? Okay, but what if they type in a D? So next line, backspace to the left side, and we go elif program equals, and their other choice was a D, so D. Then what do we want them to do? We want it to run decrypt instead, so decrypt. And decrypt was a function that we created. So, okay, if the user types in E, then run that encrypt function that we made. But if they say D, then run the decrypt function that we created. Now, what if they type something else? They're not supposed to, but they might. So we need to let them know that they didn't input something that the computer recognizes. So down again, backspace to the left. And the last part we'll say is else, okay, print, and we'll print out a message to tell them you have to say E or D. So you did not enter E or D. Please restart program. So they know what to do if they make a mistake. All right, and that's it. So we want to save if we haven't saved recently, and let's run it and test it out here. Run. All right, so on this side of the screen, the message, what do you want to do, encrypt or decrypt? Let's say E, encrypt, return. What's the key? I'm going to go with the key of 3. We've tested that in class before. And let's say my message is hello, and I want it turned into secret message. And there it is, secret message core. Now, let's use that secret message and see if our program decrypts properly too. So I'm going to have to, the way we set it up, we're going to have to run it again. It's not on a forever loop, so run. Let's say D for decrypt. I'm going to use a key of 3 again. Uh-oh, we've got an error. Okay, let me check I'm going to pause my video real quick and check my error here. Okay, it's not recognizing message. What do you mean by message? It's because we forgot to copy and paste something in here. So in the decrypt function, we forgot to put a line that asks the user to tell us what the message is we're decrypting. Whoops. So we're going to use the same line that we used up here in our encrypt function. So for me, that's line 9, message equals input, please enter a message. Copy. And we need to do that here. We could do it after the key. That's fine. There we go. Now I have to fix my spacing though. That needs to be delete back once. It only needs 1 tab. All right, let's try that again. Save and run. So we're going to test our decrypting again. Key of 3. Here we go. Okay, what's the secret message? KHOOR. And your decoded message is hello. So success. Oh, let's test the last part. What happens if they don't type E or D? So run, let's say, hi. You did not enter E or D. Please restart program. All right. And